Hi, everyone. My name is Charlotte, and today I'm swapping places with Dani, and I get to interview her, which is really cool. She's obviously been doing quite a few of these Your Stories interviews, and today we get the opportunity to hear her story. I have a huge amount of respect for Dani, and I'm super excited to be interviewing her. I think she has an incredible knowledge of TMS, a really good understanding of the work. And her website and her yoga classes have helped me hugely on my journey. So I've got a lot of love for Dani, and this is the first time I've ever recorded a Zoom and invited someone to the waiting room, from the waiting room. So I'm going to do that now. So let's bring her in. Let's see if this works. Joining. Does it normally take this long? Yes. It worked. Amazing.
Hi.
Hello. How you doing?
How you doing? I'm all right, thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me, having you. I quite enjoyed doing a little intro then. Cool. So we are recording. We're all good to go. So I was just saying that this is a brilliant opportunity for all of us to hear your story. So today it's about asking you the questions and you telling us a bit about your journey. So how are you before I start asking lots of questions?
I'm good. I'm majority good. It's been a weird year, obviously, coupled with the fact that kind of pandemic sort of started as I came into like full-on recovery. So it's been a bit up and down, mood-wise and weirdness-wise. I remember getting some weird mind-body symptoms when lockdown started to get lifted here.
Right.
But none of it kind of sticks around chronically anymore. It was just like a really strange couple of weeks of, I guess, anxiety and just that like when you're not really sure what the hell has happened in the last year and your mind's just kind of now starting to process that. So it felt like a little bit of it's been a weird year, I think we'll put it that way, but it is, there's definitely been many highs, but also various lows, but that's life, isn't it? It gets really lifey.
Yeah, it is. And I really want to hear in a bit more about what the symptoms and how that was affecting you coming out of lockdown, because I think quite a few people have experienced that. I think there's been a lot of huge number of challenges being in lockdown, but for a lot of people, including myself, it's in a way played quite nicely to what we needed at the time, which was a lot of time on our own and like no social anxiety personally and all of that. So I'm interested to hear later a bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, keep that in mind then, and we'll get into that, because I definitely think there's a lot to that, especially now, and everyone, like you say, experiencing a similar, maybe not the same symptoms, but a similar kind of experience. It's like global, isn't it?
Yeah.
Global grief and global weirdness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with just taking a step back to sort of the beginning, and before you found out about TMS and before you set up your amazing website, what was life like for you? And in particular, what were the symptoms that you were experiencing?
So the weird thing was, like, when I guess it was going on for a few years before something became so blatantly obvious something was wrong. When that was, for me, was back pain was my main screaming symptom, if you like, that really made me sort of, pardon the pun, sit up and take notice, because I couldn't really sit up. But for me, I remember the first kind of hardcore onset of symptoms that I had was actually, looking back now, was actually more like kind of IBS type symptoms, but I had bloating and I had stomach pains and issues I thought was to do with obviously diet or wheat or whatever. I had some tests for that and they said I had a wheat intolerance and probably the usual shit everybody gets told.
Yeah.
But that went away. And then I do remember for a big chunk of my life really suffering with headaches,
Right.
and various other chunks of time of different things, which I'm pretty sure that all of that was different variations of TMS just manifesting in different ways. But it's really odd because the time of my life when the back pain stuff really kicked off was like the happiest I think I've ever been, which was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But as we know with this mind body stuff, like it can be a lifetime of stuff just getting piled on top of each other. And I did have a very stressful job at the time, but my kind of personal life was very happy. So I think it was a combination. I mean, again, we don't need to necessarily like figure out why these things have happened. They just, they have.
Just do, yeah.
But for me, it was, my back pain. I started to have twinges and like aches and stuff progressively getting a bit worse. And I saw various specialists, the drill, the usual chiropractic, physiotherapy, traumatologists and stuff.
Yeah.
But in Spain, they're very much like, I guess pretty much like everywhere really, that isn't sort of au fait with this type of stuff. I was given some really hardcore painkillers and just physical therapy, and there was no cure. I wasn't offered surgery or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things that I was just kind of told that I had to deal with and live with, really, and cope with. So
did any of that ever help? I mean, with most people we know it doesn't. Did you ever get any relief from any of it? No.
The painkillers I did, although I know a lot of people in mind body world don't actually get relief from painkillers, but I did. And when I used to go to the emergency room now and again, when I was having really bad spasms and I couldn't stand up and stuff, I was given diazepam injections.
Right.
Interestingly, which were great.
Yeah,
Love
did that?
diazepam injections.
Yeah. I never
amazing.
had them, but I've taken diazepam and it did help. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's mainly, obviously it makes you feel really chilled out, which helps a lot with this kind of mental strain of this kind of stuff. But it's a muscle relaxant, really, first and foremost. So the spasm I was having that was kind of not allowing me to stand up straight or sit up was, the main reason why that worked for me. So some things did work. Chiropractic care sometimes worked on and off. But I think that was, probably mainly placebo or just the relief that you do get. You do get relief from treatments. Some people do get relief from treatments, but very short-lived.
Yeah.
And I did find, in fact, I went through a period of time blaming my chiropractor for my herniated disc, which was quite funny.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought, well, obviously he's twisting my body like this and like that, it could have popped out and I'm never going back to him and all this. And then 2 months later, I was like, oh, it's such a relief to go back. And, the circles that we do go round and round in, don't we, with this?
Yeah.
So I got the runaround from loads of different treatments. Some of it did feel good for a while, but it did actually make it worse. And I found what actually made it the most worst, if that's English even, was the physical therapy homework that I was given.
Right.
So I'd go in for treatment in the office and they'd do an hour of whatever. And then I'd have to do these exercises at home that were specifically targeting the muscles that were spasming.
Right.
So for me, and I'm sure for many people that are listening can resonate with this, is like the more you treat the specific area with a physical fix, the worse that is going to be, because, well, one, I think that area is tender anyway and suffering, regardless of where that pain has originated from. That area is sore, so it's gonna flare, it's gonna be tender, but also that's kind of telling the brain that I have a physical problem that I need to physically fix.
Yeah.
So I was going around in circles with that, treatment, flare up, teaching my brain the wrong thing, treatment, flare up, round and round and round. And that just kept me kind of stuck. But during that time, because I was kind of given this dead end with the doctors, that there was nowhere this could go. I think it was like I needed more answers because it didn't make sense to me. I did believe that, there was no reason why I wouldn't necessarily believe the doctors that my herniated disc and my disc degeneration and my slight scoliosis were the reason for my pain. Why wouldn't I? Like, I've got an MRI that says that I look at it and it looks wrong. I'm told it's wrong. So why wouldn't I believe that?
Yeah.
And I did believe that for a very long time. And it's really difficult and I know that you struggle a little bit with this as well, that it's so hard to let go of a physical diagnosis, especially if you've got something that is abnormal, that is definitely a diagnosis. That's like you've been told by a doctor, you can see it on a piece of paper, you can see it on imaging. It's really hard to let go of that and think, well, why wouldn't that be causing my pain? But the proof really did become apparent after a certain amount of time after finding this work. I guess what happened for me next was, by accident, I stumbled upon someone else recommending a book by Dr. John Sarno, to someone else in a Facebook conversation. So it was just like serious luck that I
is that
saw
what it was?
that
So that was the first moment you saw a comment that someone else said, cool.
I had no idea I had, personality traits stuff. I had no idea I even really had anxiety at this time. I had no idea I had, past, a million different baby miniature T traumas that had happened throughout my life that I'd buried. I had no clue. We're so almost shielded from this kind of stuff unless you're really into psychology or really understand yourself. I think the majority of us have no idea how much any of our actual real lives have to do with how our physical bodies are. If we're not taught that, then why would we know that?
No.
So I was desperate at this point. Basically, I'd been given the runaround. I had no solution, and I saw this person recommending a book, and I thought, well, that's ridiculous, but I was desperate, so I bought it. And I read the reviews on Amazon as well, which I'd highly recommend that anybody that's listening to this goes and has a look at. There's thousands of reviews. And they are all like, this guy's a miracle worker. And it sounds too good to be true. Don't get me wrong. I first read it, I was like, not the book. I read the reviews and I was like, come on now. It sounds like, have you ever seen those people that go around on social media and go, oh, Dr. Bing Bong healed me of herpes and all this kind of list of things? Have you seen those bots that go around doing this? They do it on my profile sometimes. And it's like, no, he didn't. I felt like that. I was like, this isn't real.
Rubbish. And this is what happens though, isn't it? Like, you have to be so desperate to sort of believe it, don't you, or to try it. That's everyone. So many people's story is, I had nothing, no hope, I tried everything else. And taking a bit of a step back, what did life look like for you by that point when you did find it? Were you working? Were you moving? Were you moving around?
I was working. I was working still in an office scenario. So this was before I even went freelance. But luckily enough, I worked for my partner at the time. He's still my partner now, but I worked for him in his office. So it was like I started to change my office hours and started to work a bit from home and stuff like that from when it really got bad like that. I just had to put up with it. I had to take a lot of pain medication. I just had to deal with it. But it actually got a little bit worse after that time at the office. It was bad, but it actually got a little bit worse as I started to kind of shuffle my work around, and understandably so. I guess my stress levels were heightened a bit as that was kind of transitioning. But I noticed it actually got worse when I was allowed to be lying down on the sofa working, and I was kind of giving in to my situation a little bit. I guess the sadness and the kind of like, oh my God, woe is me, look at the shit state of my life stuff, mood really didn't help from that point of view. But that was the turning point for me, was reading this book. And I'll be honest, I read the book, I totally believed it. I was like, this book is written about me. I was so blown away that, like, why did I not know about this stuff? And funnily enough, since doing the yoga teacher training as well, like, I learned a lot about Eastern sort of philosophy and Eastern medicine and stuff like that. And it is so well known in all of that world
Yeah.
that your emotions and it's all connected. They're all the same thing. It's not even connection. It is like, that is the same thing. And in Chinese medicine as well, it's the same. So, but it's so weird because obviously that made a lot more sense to me now that I understand TMS and my body and all that. But I think for a lot of people that will be, you know, an understood thing. They don't need a doctor to tell them that,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
quite weird to kind of figure out.
One thing that I find now, I don't know if this resonates, is I think there is like a general acceptance that stress can cause pain, or stress can cause symptoms like IBS and whatever it might be. So I hear a lot of people go, I think it's stress that caused it. The bit where I struggle if I'm talking to other people to get buy-in is that the solution is in the emotions. I hear a lot of it's driven by stress, but the solution is still something physical. Stress gave me this back problem and now I need surgery. That's where I see a real disconnect, is in what the solution is.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think that is just, again, that is just part of like the education that we've had, or the lack of education that we've had growing up, is like, we don't have, I mean, therapy is a lot more kind of normalized now, and, you know, emotions and stuff like that are more normalized, but we're still very much a society of take a pill, have a surgery. There's no, you know, treating of the human self, really. Well, there is, but it's nowhere near as normalized as medicine is.
Yeah.
And if you have a physical problem, like, your default reaction is a physical solution. That is just will take probably, you know, years and years and years to get woven out of the sort of construct that we've got in this Western world. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So you've got the Sano book. So you read that.
Yeah.
And
so I read the book. I was like, fucking hell, this book is about me. This is mental. And I was reading out loads of excerpts to my partner as well, just going, can you believe it says this? It says this, it says this. And he was like, what on earth have you found here? This is insane. He totally got it as well. Thankfully.
Did he? That's really cool.
That's bullshit. Yeah. No. He studied psychology.
Okay.
So he's very much like, kind of, he gets that. But yeah, he's a very physical thinking person as well, but he totally got it. And just knowing what, I mean, he could see what sort of personality I was. I couldn't see that, you know. He was like, but that's definitely you. And I'm going, that's not me. What do you mean? That bit's not about me. So yeah, the book was bang on, and I thought that was really spookily accurate. At the time, I lived in Spain, and it was like, it's very kind of, although the medical system's great there isn't, it's kind of even more behind than the UK is, which is even probably more behind in terms of mind body than the US is. So there was nowhere there that was anything remotely like anybody I could go to figure out how to do this. So I did some of the learning, and I implemented some of the stuff that Sarno's book suggests to do. One of the main things was getting back to some level of movement and trying to dial down that fear factor of getting back to my old life as it was, which took ages to do. I guess probably there's a gap of about 2 years between when I found the book and then when I started Nicole Sachs' Journal Speak work, where I found that work. So Sarno's teaching and book were, you know, amazing. What an amazing resource, amazing guy. But there was very kind of little instruction as to what to do next. He does talk a lot about thinking psychologically over thinking physically, and getting back to movement and talking to your brain and stuff like that, which I definitely did. And I did definitely feel different from just having an answer, from just doing those things and thinking I'm not broken and I can progress with this. But it did sort of plateau a little bit. And then obviously the fear of the physical issues come back in, and you're still not completely, you know, it does take a long time, certainly did for me, to really have all of this information really settle into my like psyche, and for me to completely be black and white about TMS and stuff. So I got a little bit better. I did get back to, you know, Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. And then I went on a big Google mission one day. I was like, this is bullshit. This doesn't get any better. I'm sick of this. It's kind of ruining my life. I had no social life. I cancelled everything I ever booked to do. Couldn't go on holiday, couldn't really drive. It was like, you know, it was just fucking terrible.
It gave me
And it started to
goosebumps when you
really
said
affect
that
my
then,
mood.
because it just so resonated. It's properly like made all the hairs on my arms go up.
We've all got really quite similar stories, haven't we?
Yeah.
It ruins your life. I mean, let's be honest, it completely ruins your life. And because it happens sort of so progressively as well, I think it's really, you don't really notice it, how deep that dark hole goes until you really come out and go, fuck, that was dark.
I totally agree. Yeah. Like, how did I even get through that? Because you're right, you're just surviving in the moment, aren't you? And then I certainly had it one day. I was like, God, my life is shit. Like, this is, and how did I get here? Yeah, I know. I really know what you mean.
Yeah, but it's your normal as well, isn't it? You kind of learn, like you say, like we got ourselves into this this TMS mess by our survival instincts. So in a way, I guess they have kind of helped us get through it, and it, you know, they helped us. Those hypervigilant selves are kind of like our savior in a little way. It's not all, you know, terrible stuff, but deepest, darkest, horrible. And then obviously you get more anxious and you get more kind of depressive episodes because this is your life now. So it's a bit of a vicious circle, really. So I went on a big deep dive in Google trying to find more stuff from Sarno, and I didn't really know about any of his successors at this point. It was just him. So I went on TMS Wiki, I think was one of the main resources at that time. I found, and I found some YouTube resources, and then I found Nicole Sachs. In fact, I think I remember her name and her videos keeping popping up in YouTube and stuff. But I'm more understanding of different people's approaches now. But I think at the time I was so looking for a doctor, and I was so looking for like this official government body, big logo, like we will fix you type entity to tell me what I needed to do.
Maybe
and there was this lovely lady on the other side of the screen.
Title. Like,
Exactly.
I totally get it. I know.
And I saw this video of this lovely lady like talking really sweetly and calmly and kindly about, you know, mind-body issues and stuff. And I was just like, no, this can't be right, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, she does really know what she's fucking talking about, and she saved my life. But at the time it was like, who's this lady? Why? What is going on? So I found, long story short, I found Nicole Sachs' YouTube series. I think it was the Heal Yourself series. And explaining that your emotional world is kind of the main driver for getting out of chronic pain, whatever your pain is, whatever your symptom is, if it's driven by mind-body issues. So I found her work, I resonated with a lot of, she's got a great podcast, which I started to binge listen. And then because I was working from home, at this point we'd moved to England, so I was kind of resetting up my freelancing clients and stuff here, setting up the house, and I had time to dedicate to this any day, every day. So I think I was very lucky in that sense that I could really deep dive into the learning and stuff. And I fully committed to myself. It was like almost like my new job. I did kind of A-star it in the TMS way, but I knew that I needed to be calmer and nicer to myself and all that kind of thing. So I was learning as I went along, but I definitely started the journal speak practice, the expressive writing practice every day, life or death. Like I literally didn't even let myself go downstairs and get dressed, do anything else until I'd done it. Although I was so sick, I was desperate. I was like, I cannot let this ruin my life any longer. I had come to that brick wall, you know, that like rock bottom. And I started doing the work, and I'll be honest, like after a few weeks everything got worse, and I know this is really common for a lot of people. Everything got worse. My anxiety went through the roof, and we're in a new country as well, new place, so there was a lot of extra stresses on top, and it just went to shit basically. I can't remember what the other symptoms I had at the time, but probably headaches, because that's one of my other kind of go-to things. Tummy problems, insomnia. Fuck, insomnia was terrible. I had a big bout of that actually before my back pain, a big bout of insomnia. I'd actually made a list of all the things now that I know I'd had that in my body throughout my life, but that's probably quite a triggering list. But it's basically everything.
Really? What else have you had
loads of
that you've not mentioned? Is there more?
I had hair loss. I know that's not necessarily TMS or stress related. I had skin issues. I got shingles. I've had this my whole life, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this on a podcast actually. I've had this my whole life, and I know now that this is probably a nervous system regulation thing. I've got hyperhidrosis, which is like excessive hand sweating.
Okay.
Well, anyway, really, but for me, it's mainly my hands.
Yeah.
And feet, and sometimes elsewhere. But that is a sign of a really overreactive sympathetic nervous system. So, and that does go away. Like if like right now, I'm definitely sweating because I'm doing an interview with you. But like literally 5 minutes after we finish, it'll completely all go.
Really, will it? Wow.
Yeah. So that's something that I've yet to get rid of, but it has definitely got a bit better. What else did I have? I had nausea. I had really bad bouts of nausea. Anxiety, obviously, loads of things. I've got a list, but those are the main things I can think of now.
Nausea is, not to just pick one because I've had some of these. Nausea, it's hard work. I get it a lot. I get it now after I eat. It's like a new one for me. Often when I wake up, it's I mean, they're all really difficult, aren't they? But when they all
that was a new one for me. Definitely nausea and vertigo and dizziness as well. I had a few weird episodes in the supermarket where I'd eaten, I'd slept, I was completely fine. It wasn't like, I wasn't vitamin deficient or anything. I had some tests for that. Oh, tinnitus is a new one. Well, not a new one. I've had tinnitus, and it's not the high-pitched whining. I've got this rumbling in my left ear, and it only happens when I'm lying on my right side, sometimes when I'm sat up. So I figured something must be trapped, it must be blocked, whatever. And had some tests, had an MRI.
It's all fine.
Tinnitus. I was like, you're fucking joking me. I've been swindled again. TMS comes and gets you, doesn't it? Like, but that comes and goes rarely every day now. So now I'm onto that. That's gone as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of all of it. So I
found nice laundry list.
Yeah, pretty much everything I think I've had, pretty much. But the main standout ones for me were, and I think this is actually a good point to mention as well, none of those things that I've had, well, apart from the hyperhidrosis and maybe the tinnitus, none of those things really that I had were chronic. Like I've never had them for years.
Yeah.
They are literally interchangeable mind-body symptoms that everybody experiences, but they probably just think, oh, I ate a bad curry last night, so I feel a bit sick, or, I've got a headache because I'm dehydrated, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But now we're so tuned in to mind body, like symptoms that I get, I'm kind of like, I need to think about that, or I haven't journaled for a while, or that's pissing me off, or that person made me feel powerless, or whatever it is. I now know what my body is talking about, basically, whereas before it was just like scared of anything else that came up.
And a bit, I want to hear a bit more about the like what happened when you found Nicole's work. But I think that is an interesting one. And someone asked a bit about the symptoms. When you do get new ones, or when they're ones you've had before, what is your default now? It sounds like it's journaling. What do you do when they come up?
I laugh it off.
Do you?
Yeah, I put it out of my mind. I have become quite good at, and this took ages as well, good at being indifferent. I might go, oh God, why do I feel so sick? Like, what have I eaten? And then go, don't worry about it. I kind of give myself this this rule now of, if it isn't a life-threatening thing, if I'm not like bleeding to death, or I've got a tumor coming out of my side, or I can't see or something, then just fuck it off. Like, what are you worrying about? It's a bit of you feel nauseous, and what? Like, you've not got a brain tumor or all this kind of stuff. And that health anxiety for me, I used to be a massive hypochondriac.
Right.
That health anxiety is completely gone now. Like, I might go and get a blood test if I feel like I'm deficient or something, whatever. But by the time the appointment comes round, I'm like, I've given up on it anyway. It's like, it's gone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Do you find booking the appointment sometimes gets rid of it? That's worked for me in the
Yeah.
past. I book an
Yeah,
appointment, then it goes. It's great.
I've cancelled a lot. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Nice.
So I'll still, if there's any concern there, obviously, that I think there's something seriously wrong, I will obviously always go and get checked out by a doctor, which I think is massively important to mention. Always get checked out by a physician or by a specialist or by somebody that knows what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying that, I would never say that there's anything wrong with the medical model in that sense. It's there for a reason. But if, you know, if I've got a bit of an arm ache or a bit of a headache or whatever, I'll literally just remind myself, be indifferent, be okay with this, be like, you know, find some equanimity where you're balanced about it. You're not going, fuck, what's going on? Just breathe, distract yourself with something else, and, you know, 9 times out of 10 it will go within the day. Like, yeah.
I think this is such important advice. And it's amazing that works for you.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like that, this is so much of it, isn't it? And it's taken me months to get to that. But I finally get it. So I think for people who are new to this, if that sounds like crazy and not possible and almost like irritating to hear, I think it takes a while, but you do get there if you just practice it a little bit every time.
Yeah, practice it. I mean, if you've got symptoms every day, you've got the chance to practice it every day.
Yeah.
And it does just take time. It is like learning a new language. It's hard and it seems impossible, but practice literally makes perfect with this kind of thing, because and you've always got different chances to sort of practice it as and when new stuff comes up. But I think it's kind of out of your control in a way, even though we can sort of control how these things go with journaling and with, you know, somatic tracking or whatever it is modality that you use, meditation and stuff. You have control over the way you respond to something, and that's probably the only real control that you have over anything. Letting go of stuff that you can't control has been a big lesson, I think, for me in all of this as well, in terms of just general mood, general like life, how things go, how other people are, how other people respond to you is none of your business. You know, it's their responsibility to deal with their own life, their own happiness, their own stuff. You know, if they react to something that I do or I've said or whatever, that is on them, not on me. Which is another big lesson. But indifference was like the last piece of the puzzle for me, definitely. Having a mindset of just, I'm okay, like there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm feeling these things. My body is alerting me to these things. I'm panicking because my nervous system's trying to protect me, not fighting me. I'm not having a battle with my body. It doesn't hate me. It's quite the opposite. And that was just learning. That just took time. But it again and again, it proved itself to work. You know, when I started to get little bouts of reduction in pain, when it started to soften, and I think it was definitely came hand in hand with how I felt with the journal speak practice and with the meditation, the effects of that on my nervous system just started to kind of wave in gradually. And it would definitely come in ups and downs, and it was some days really bad and there was nothing I could do. I would be in a flare up for days. That was just the way it was. But again, I think every time I came out of a big flare, and I could say this with mood sort of swings as well, if you come out of a depressive state, your high, say you go down 2 steps, you come out 3 or 4. You know, you might feel like, fuck, God, I've got a flare up. This is never ending. What do I do? Panic, ask questions on Facebook groups, go into a spiral. And then you come back to the lessons that you already know, like come back to what you've learned, come back to all these things that you've sort of put time into figuring out for yourself. You have all the answers you need, really, once you've done a bit of learning with this. You have all the answers you need inside. It's just that, am I doing it right? Do I need to do something else? What are they doing? What did they do? So yeah, I think once you've learned what the basics of this and how it goes, and you're putting in the time and the work, that pulling back almost worked a little bit better for me, because it kept my nervous system more settled, and I was less anxious and less panicky about symptoms and stuff by just doing the work and meditating and calming down my system, regulating myself was a huge lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't really need thousands of other people to tell you. Even asking them probably makes you get a bit of an anxiety spike, because you're like, well, everyone's answer's different and everyone's telling me to take supplements or whatever the fuck advice you might get, you know?
Yeah. And what sort of time frame? Because I think what a lot of people struggle with is, and there's few of these stories of I read Sarno's book and then I was healed and that was it. And then there's sort of the instant ones, and then there's the ones where they had an 80% improvement in a few weeks. I don't think yours was like that. Mine is certainly not like that. What was the time frame between when you really started Nicole's work to you thinking, I'm actually really, either the pain is gone and it's no longer chronic, or when you felt this is really working?
When it became no longer chronic, or let's say when I contacted Nicole to tell her that her work had worked, was 3 months of dedicated every single day. But I was only about 20 days chronic pain free at that point when I contacted her. So by the time I went on that first podcast, that was like the first sunlight I'd seen in the darkness for like close to 5 years. And then it comes and goes though. Like I felt really bad, because actually the day we recorded her first podcast, I had a massive flare up. I was probably freaking out about doing the interview, and I was like, fuck, how can I go on there and tell her this is work? Because I felt like a right fraud, because I'm having this flare up now. But I did come to learn as well that flare ups are obviously natural. They're part of the process. Things come and go. Your nervous system is still figuring stuff out. And I guess that was just the difference for me. It stopped debilitating my whole life. It stopped controlling my life. I stopped thinking about it all the time. I could drive, I could walk, I could work out, I could sit up, I could go to work, I could stand in a queue, I could do all those things that ruined my day-to-day before were no longer there. Yes, I still had bouts of pain. I had little ups and downs, I had flares, but it was like it had nosedived into, or gone up probably is a better way to look at it, out of that hideous world and into having my life back. And then it just got progressively better. I had less and less flare-ups over the next, let's say, maybe 6-7 months. Now and again, now I might even get a little flare-up now and again. I think that's completely normal to say, and completely normal for everyone to understand. Like, I might get a back flare if I'm having a really hard emotional time, but again, I apply the same principles. I'll either journal speak and meditate, or I will just be indifferent, or a combination of those things, and within the same day usually, or within the same sort of next few hours or so, that will just go. So it's a warning sign and a signal, and like an alarm bell, that there's something that needs to be addressed. And that's just life. That's just the way it is for me. It's my back. Sometimes it's a headache. And that's just mind body. That's mind body doing what it needs to do, what it's always kind of done, I guess. I just have that area as the chosen area that my body mind likes to shout.
I think your story, and I said this before I let you in the room, I think your story is an amazing example of someone who really understands the work. And I think you're proof, because 3 months, if you'd had 20 days of no pain, that's not long, is it, really, that it worked for you? So it really shows that, and you did it every day. And I think there is probably something in the perfectionism of, because I remember you saying before that you did all of Sarno's 10, I don't know what they are, but bullet points or something. But
the daily reminders.
It worked. Daily reminders, is that what they're called? But it really worked for you. I think your podcast was one of the first I ever listened to, and I was like, this stuff really works.
I think it's important to know as well that, because I didn't just find out about CMS, then start Nicole's work, then it was 3 months of then finding relief. It was 2 years before that I found Sarno, so I had already had a lot of understanding on the ins and outs of how this works. It was just that, what do I do now? Learning, and obviously the solidifying of the message and the understanding of the nervous system and all that. And also getting really into my own practice of self-regulation as well, like yoga and meditation and breath work and stuff like that. Like I had other little practices that I did on the side that I know everybody's different. You know, some people might like to work out and weightlift or whatever it is. For me, the more calming meditative side of things was miraculously shifting for me. So I know a lot of people who do Nicole's work and they will only journal but can't meditate and don't do the soothing side of it.
Yes.
Which is why I really thought it was important to outline that on my website, was the steps that I took. Not that these steps will be exactly the same for everybody, obviously, as everyone's different, but just how important self-soothing is massive. I can have a flare up sometimes, you know, year ago, whatever, I can have a flare up and meditate it away.
It's amazing.
It's that good. It's that good. Like literally, your nervous system is just looking for safety. If you're in a spike, you're in a flare, that's your brain doing that. Like you can bring it down just as fast as it came in. But I think there's a sort of a multi-level to that, isn't it? It's the not being afraid, not panicking, not spiraling, and then doing some sort of practice that regulates your nervous system. And yeah, just practice. All of this is awareness and practice. The learning is awareness and practice, and it is repetitive listening to this information as well. Like it took me, you know, maybe 100 Dan Buglio videos to really understand that message, and daily listening to that and going, okay, well, he said to do this, I'm going to try this, and then you forget, you get on with your life, you're panicking again, you're back in the cycle of pain and fear and pain and fear. So it's choices, it's small daily promises and small daily choices that you can make that really make up that huge sort of end result, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And all of it is free, pretty much. Very different to the world that we've been in, paying consultants and all of that.
Yeah, so, exactly. I mean, I bought Nicole's book, but I think that was at the time, that was the only thing that I'd spent money on. Yeah, Sarno's book and Nicole's book, The Meaning of Truth, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So talk a bit about then how that transitioned into you building My TMS Journey, your amazing website, which has helped so many people and is quoted and linked to more and more across all of the different forums. So talk a bit about how that came about.
Yeah, so my background work-wise is in digital marketing, graphic design, and front-end web development.
Yeah.
So that was like my day job. And I had this Trello board on my computer of all of the different resources that I was using. I was very kind of straight A student about how I categorized my links to Nicole's stuff, my podcast lists, my TMS Wiki, all of those different things that I'd done. The Alan Gordon course on TMS Wiki is actually really good. I did that really early on. Loads of just links. I had shitloads of links, and I was like, everybody needs this.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of years to put all of this shit together.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find this information. I mean, it's, you know, I was bang on it and rabbit holing, and it took me a couple of years to fish it all out as well. So, and you're struggling so much when you're like this. So I was like, people need to see this. I can build a website. Well, in the end, my partner ended up doing it loads better than I could have done it anyway. But we have the tools and the skills, both of us, between me and Steve, to put something together, even if it's just a little fucking, you know, blog, and load a list of links and just whack stuff out there. I'll make a Facebook page and I'll share some links. And that was what it was going to be. My work had kind of started to dry up because the pandemic had started. And I was like, oh, let's just make this. I'll share it in some of the Facebook groups. Some people might find it really helpful. And then it kind of just grew from there. Like I was being perfectionistic about how it looked, obviously, and he's not a TMSer, but he's very perfectionistic and very like wants things to be efficient and user friendly and all that sort of stuff. So he put together a beautiful back end framework for the website, and I did like the front end and the design and all the shit and writing and all that. And I just thought it would be really helpful for people to understand what the process was for someone that's come through it. Not only the resources that, you know, help and what I did and what I found, but what my own story was, because we're all so similar in this community. I think it's amazingly important and helpful to resonate with someone's story, their identity, their personality, like, oh, that I can really, that sounds a lot like me, so I have hope now. And that's a massive part of this as well for me, certainly for me personally, is giving people hope and giving people, making them feel better about themselves and making
Yeah.
them feel understood and heard and held, and like, you're not on your own, you're not broken, you know, helping people get over that like panic and despair part is personally like something that I really hold very dear. So that was the idea, basically, just to help
Yeah.
people, and then it kind of just grew from there. I had quite a few people in the group, some friends I'd made in Nicole's group and other TMS support groups that were, you know, interested, and they joined my group, and it just grew. Like,
Yeah.
it's only just 1 year old now. It's just gone past 1 year since I did it.
Gosh, I can't believe it's only been a year. I feel like I've been clicking on it and using it for journal speak prompts and all of that for well over a year. But yeah, it probably isn't, is it?
Yeah,
Amazing.
it does feel longer to me as well, but I think this year has felt like about 60 years as well as 10 minutes, hasn't it?
I know it does.
What the fuck? How can it be going faster but also in
It's so
reverse?
hard.
What on
Yeah,
earth is going on?
I know. What's it going to
So
feel like
yeah.
when we're all let out? Cool.
Yeah, and that's that really. I keep adding to it. I add, you know, I've started to do like daily social media content now to
Yeah.
really get, because there's stuff that's in my mind and things that I experience it still, even now recovering, that I want to share with people. Again, it resonates with people because they're very similar, and they find it really helpful. So I continue to do that, and
Yeah.
that's it really. I just thought it would be helpful, so I just did it, and
Yeah. I think it's
it's doing
amazing.
really
And
well now. It's started to really grow.
yeah, good. And I think what it does is it, as you say, it pulls it all together. And I think it fills in some of the gaps that are out there. So whether it is small things like, you know, your journal speak prompts that I reference, like that, so often people ask for, like, where do I start?
Yeah.
And Nicole's got the 3 lists, which are brilliant. So I think as well as being a really holistic site, it's filled in a lot of the gaps. And then of course
Yeah.
a large part of that, and a part that I think everyone want to hear more about, is the yoga. And I think you've really filled a big gap there, which is helping people get back into movement in a mindful way. So tell us a bit about the background to how you set up your, I want to call it a yoga business. Is that how you see it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It is a business because I charge for the classes now. So whilst, as I said before, like even when I was still in Spain and I found, you know, Sarno's work, and he was recommending to get back to a movement or a level of movement you were comfortable with, to get you back to your normality, your normal life. Can you hear my cat scratching at the door? 1 second.
Yeah, I can actually. I wouldn't have heard it if you'd not said it.
Come on, but don't be naughty and don't shout. Right, sorry about that. He might shout. So I that's one of 3. So let's see how we get on. I got back to doing some basic Pilates and basic yoga as much as I could in the gym, and then I just started to notice how much better I felt after the more meditative practices. So after the long shavasana, after yoga, you know, sometimes the movement would make me feel a little bit flary or a little bit, you know, a bit of discomfort and stuff. But I really started to notice how the breathing and how that meditative movement started to really help me and regulate. And I started to learn more about nervous system regulation, how yoga basically is a practice for that. And I just noticed how good it felt for me first and foremost. And then, cut a long story short, once I actually felt better, once I told Nicole that I was, you know, her work had worked for me and stuff like that, a friend of mine, Annika, she went to India and did a yoga teacher training course. And I thought to myself, I've practiced with Annika before. You know, I could probably say I'm about, you know, a similar level to her as far as what we can do in yoga terms. And I thought I was never be good enough to be a teacher. Like I don't do like handstands and fucking splits and God knows what I thought being a yogi was. And just asked her, like, how hard was that? Do you think I could do it? And she was like, yeah, anybody can do it. Get off the computer. anybody can do. He's literally typing.
Is it?
Anybody can do it. You're taught in yoga teacher training about philosophy, about anatomy, about, you know, obviously asana practice, meditation, breath work, but they're teaching you how to be a teacher. You don't have to be a monk to do it.
Yeah.
So I was blown away by that. I was like, well, that's my fucking March sorted. So she came back at the end of January, and I was going on the 1st of March. I was like, I'm going to fucking do that. He wants to get out now. I'm so sorry.
Go on then.
Story of my life with these little beasts.
I'm just going to look at your beautiful plants.
Oh yeah, this is my yoga room.
I love it. It's so calming.
I've got it a bit zoomed in.
It's so calming. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Cute, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice.
So yeah, I decided to go and do the training, and that was in India, and that was like the most amazing experience.
Oh, I bet.
And frightening and backflaring experience I've ever had.
Yeah, of course.
Really put me on the spot in terms of I don't feel good enough, and my personality traits went absolutely apeshit over there, but I did it, and it was life-changing. And the pandemic lockdown actually started in the last week that we were there, so we had to cut that trip short a little bit by about a week.
Okay.
Yeah, but I still got certified, and I, you know, we did everything but very intensely, loads more hours and over the weekend and stuff. But we did it, and so I came back with this certificate and with this new knowledge and all of that. And I just thought, well, at this point, I just did it for me. I hadn't done it for the TMS community at all. I'd done it because it was something that I thought I never would be able to do. I was like, I'll never be well enough to do that. So it was like a personal thing. And then I was actually chatting to the ladies on the TMS roundtable, and I think that was the first time that I'd ever really kind of spoken about it, that I had in my mind that there's probably a way that I could bring this into the TMS community, because literally yoga is it's called, you know, it's a mind-body mastery. It is a mind-body practice. It's not like I've reinvented the wheel to make it fit into TMS. Like, it is literally made for this. Yeah. And the way that you can practice, obviously, any kind of exercise or regime that you're doing, you can practice really easily and gently, or you can be a fucking master at it. So I kind of created this type of restorative, gentle, floor-based yoga that is very gentle and very simple and easy on the body and adaptable and etc., etc., specifically for this community. And it includes you know, different vagus nerve settling stuff, grounding techniques, mindfulness, breath work, meditation, loads of different elements that I weave into it. And I just thought, you know, I'm going to offer some stuff to some small groups of people and just see if it lands. If it helps people, great. If not, I'll just switch it up and, you know, do something else or whatever. But it started to pick up and started to grow, and then started to, you know, make me a little wage from it. And now I've been able to drop most of my kind of day job work to focus solely on the mind body community and creating content and teaching and, you know, learning more myself as well, doing more courses. And I'm doing probably some more trauma informed stuff now in the future, and lovely. Possibly yoga therapy as well, just really adapt this even more to help people.
Amazing. And what have you seen in, because I think I did one of your first, it was really early on that I first did your classes, and that for me was the first bit of movement I'd done. And I think we were doing, in Pilates we call it rest position, child's pose, I think it is. We were doing child's pose, and I couldn't even, I had to lie down. You said something like, if you know, if anything's too much, lie down, and I lay down for about 80% of the class. And then I did a few things, and I was like, oh my gosh, my body can do this. It really was that. I had no idea. And because you were talking in such a calm way, and you were reminding us that, you know, this is just our body trying to protect us, and we were safe doing the moves, I just did a few, and then I think I stopped. And that was what spiraled my movement now back into, I'm really into Pilates, and I don't do anything crazy, but I do, you know, I do weights and things now. And that was where it started. Amazing. Which for me was literally, again, life-changing. Have you seen more of that? What have you seen in people that you're teaching?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's progress is a little bit different, but I think the people that have come in and been consistent with the practice and followed along, some people might come in once a week, some people might come in three. There's people that come to every class, and they have since I started.
Yeah.
People progress in very different ways, but I think yeah, there's a load of reviews on my website in the yoga section that I add, but from feedback from everybody. A really beautiful one that came in today from Joni, and she's been with me for a few months now, and she was experiencing lots of different symptoms and pain, and she just sent me a message yesterday or day before yesterday saying that she's running again now, and that she
It's
attributes a lot of
incredible.
that progress to the yoga practice and consistency. And I always usually give people a bit of homework as well, or a bit of stuff to practice at home, mindfulness stuff, or different breathing techniques and stuff, and just being able to bring that into your own life is where the magic is. It's not come to one class and be cured. It's like you're learning these practices to take off the mat and use in your everyday life. So if you're able to commit to something like that and take part in and be consistent with, then yeah, there's reviews that people are having pain-free after pain reduction after the session, during the session, but
Yeah.
also like big sort of light bulb moments about their own personalities or their own overthinking tendencies, or just that whole idea of like coming back to yourself and getting out of your crazy thoughts for that hour that we're together, that then progresses. The more we practice it, that literally becomes your normality, your day-to-day
Yeah.
calm state. That is not just tapping into something and you're in a class.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been miraculous change for many people that are there.
Yeah. It's amazing. And
And
if somebody was,
yeah,
sorry, it's getting dark here. I'm in Singapore and I've just realized, there we go. It's half
oh,
past
that's a
six
bit
at night,
better.
and
Hello,
it was
Charlotte.
getting, I just realized it was getting darker and darker. It's nearly 7 p.m.
Yeah.
outside. Yes, sorry, finish what you were going to say, and then I wanted to ask about if you're new to yoga, what
Yeah,
you'd
no, that's it.
recommend.
Yeah, no, I don't remember what else I was going to say, so that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, so if someone is new to this and they haven't done yoga and they've just found your website, you mentioned consistency. What do you recommend to somebody who's not done any movement yet in terms of joining your
I
classes?
mean, I would recommend, if you've done literally nothing, let's take me as an example, or you as an example, that you've had serious body pain, or you have serious body pain, and you're looking to start something but you don't know where to start. There's two levels that I would probably recommend. The first level is level 0. The class that I offer is called Nourishing Nidra, which actually can be completely movement free if you want it to be. We do a few little baby stretches in the beginning, but then it's like a long immersive meditation that is like a sleep for the nervous system, basically.
Yeah.
And that's a really good entry point. And all of the classes that I offer as well, I do them live streams, but I also record them in high quality and put them in an on-demand section on the website as well. So if you can't meet the times that we practice together, then you've always got that little bucket of classes you can dip in and out of. And then the main, like the class that I do most frequently is called Reset and Restore, and that is my
Yeah.
level 1, which is a really entry level one, which is the one that you did. And that is all floor based. We don't even stand up. We don't need balance. We don't need stability. We don't need a big amount of mobility even. It's really light stretches, light movement. And the main focus is not even actually the physical movement anyway. The main focus is connecting with your breath, connecting with
Yeah.
that calm state within, and learning how to regulate your nervous system,
Yeah.
and learning practices that you can take away with you and practice on your own, and also being connected to a community of people that are going through the same thing and sharing resources and sharing tips with each other in the group as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, level 1 is probably the most entry level point that the majority of people that join me come to start off with. But there is level 0 there for people that don't have any mobility, or they're either wheelchair bound or they're just really fearful. Like there is a level to
Yeah.
start off with that you don't have to even have your camera on, or my camera on. You
Yeah.
can just listen and have your headphones on.
Yeah.
And then I'd say probably to start with, just do once, maybe twice a week. See how you get on. Maybe don't even do the full hour. You can just, I mean, it's not an hour of movement. We do about a 10-15 minute meditation to start, then there's a small movement sequence, and then we do breath work at the beginning as well, and then we do another meditation at the end. So it's not an hour of like, you know, downward dogging and like freaking out. The movement sequence is just one section of it. So you can take as much or as little as you want as well at the class. Like I said to you, and you've picked up on as well, like if there's bits that you find are fearful, or you know you won't be able to do it, or you know it's going to give you a flare or whatever, then don't do it. There's no obligation to do all of the stuff that I'm suggesting you do. Just take whatever you need to soothe yourself.
Yeah.
It's a soothing practice. It's not a workout, you know? No.
And I think one of the things that certainly the yoga that I used to know, it was, you know, it almost felt a bit, I don't know, I want to say not competitive, but you always felt like you had to do it. And that was what I loved about your class, was you, as you say, you just do what you need to do. And I genuinely felt that was what you meant. And I think everyone this was on Zoom, was the same. So I think it's such an amazing place for people. And even if if there's no movement and you just want to use it to calm your nervous system, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's really, really handy as well that it's on Zoom, so you can just literally lie there and no one will know. You know, you're not going to feel like you've even got to put your gym gear on, or you know, put your makeup on, or have a yoga mat. You can literally sit on your living room carpet with your headphones on and just absorb the energy from the practice, without doing any of it. You know, your confidence grows like with anything, but with this practice, your confidence and the commitment changes you. It changes you from the inside out, and once your mind is softened, your body then follows in that same direction. And that's the main kind of goal with this, is just to settle the mind, drop down the fear, and just allow your body to just basically surrender into what's going on, rather than be battling this constant fight against your symptoms, you know?
Yeah, totally. Amazing. So I have one more question that I wanted to ask about what you've learned with all of the TMS work. Is there anything else that you want to mention about your website or your yoga world before I finish with that question?
I don't think so. I'm going to be adding in a breathwork only class soon. I was hoping to start next week, but it might be the following week. Again, as a level 0 class, just for a little bit more options for people that might not be mobile, or that want to get involved, or that are just more interested in the pranayama breathwork side of things for nervous system regulation. I'm going to be adding that in, but I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to mention about that. No, I think that is pretty good. There's loads of info on the website anyway, and information about the different class types and all the reviews, so anyone can just check that out there, or ask me a question in the comments or something if they want more information.
Amazing. Awesome. So the bit that I wanted to hear from you, because I think you have learned so much and you've taught me so much, is what have you learned around, Nicole talks about, and I'm going to say it wrong, I want to say loving and acceptance for yourself, but I don't think it is that, is it? It's
patience and kindness.
Yeah, so neither of the two that I've said. Patience and kindness. Well, but it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? What have you learned about that, in terms of, because I think it's something that compassion for yourself, mainly I'm just asking because it will help me. What have you learned about that in terms of how you feel towards yourself and also others?
That's a great question. This is the best part of this whole process, I think. Even better than getting out of pain has been realizing that first of all, realizing that I was at war with myself, that I always picked on everything that I did. Nothing was ever good enough. I was never popular enough, or liked enough, or pretty enough, or capable enough, or worked hard enough. My design work was never good enough. Everyone else was always better than me. I was never good enough. I was never good enough, full stop. I never even realized how much I picked on every single thing that I did, every decision I made, every comment I made, everything I spoke. It was crazy. So doing journal speak for me really highlighted those sort of patterns, and made me realize how dysregulated I was, for one, but also how self-critical I was. And Nicole taught me that. Just from the way that she teaches and the way that she kind of brings this sort of stuff up very gently. that you're at war with yourself, and that war is going to keep you in pain. You know, you can't heal a body you hate, sort of thing. So I always used to think that self-love was complete and utter bullshit. I'll be completely honest with you. I was like, that is for fucking spiritual witches and like people that are lying, and no one can ever love themselves. What a load of horse shit. And through this work, I came to a point where I accepted myself. I allowed myself to just accept myself. It was like, will never love myself. That's a load of shit. But why can't I just get to the point where I accept myself for who I am? I have my flaws, I have my weirdness, I have my fears and anxieties and like that. Everybody does. But I accept all of those parts of myself because, again, I don't really have control over those things until I could work them out. So I just accept them. Like, why not? I was getting to a point of this like radical acceptance through journal speak as well, of radically accepting my past, radically accepting my pain, radically accepting the changes that my life had, radically accepting grief, loss, fear. I didn't really have much of a choice, and accepting it all was a huge step because it softened the edges of everything. Nothing was a battle anymore. I wasn't fighting anybody because I was only fighting myself. And once I'd got used to and sort of like steeped in that self-acceptance for a few months, I started to consider, well, what else could I get? Could I start to actually like myself? And that came, like this whole process has been. It's been a progressive journey. But this one thing really helped me, and I teach a class of this in my yoga nidra. It was mirror work. And I think I've recommended this class to you before, but I think you went, fuck, no way. I did, and I've only done a few sessions of it. I don't do this very often, but you sit in front of a mirror and you sit long enough until the critical voice stops. And it might take, 10 minutes, it might take half an hour, it might take 1 minute, don't know. And you just gaze at yourself and you have a little look around of all of those parts of your face that you go, oh my God, I wish that was different. Or you look at your skin and you look at your whatever. And after a little while, the voice actually starts to sound ridiculous. The voice is like, well, so what if you've got a load of fucking sun damage on your face? So what if your nose is crooked? So what? Like, and you see yourself, you start to really see yourself. And I had this one time, and I had a couple of little epiphanies doing that stuff, but it always felt awkward. It always felt really difficult. And like that voice was always there. But I had this one night where I was getting ready for bed and I was in the bathroom, and there's this big mirror in my bathroom. And I just looked across to the mirror, which I sometimes do when I'm sitting on the toilet before I go to bed. I looked over to this mirror and I saw myself for the first time. And this sounds really fucking cheesy, but I was just like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, wow.
How did I not fucking see you? Like, you've been there my whole life. I'm getting emotional now. How did I not see that was you? And it was like, this whole world just shattered. It obviously it didn't like kind of happen, and it was this massive explosive thing that stayed forever. It was still a bit of a work in progress, but that was a massive tipping point.
God.
Mirror work is insanely good. Really hard.
Yeah, that's so
really
beautiful
good
to hear. And you're right. It just scares me because it feels like, and it's something I keep thinking about doing. And then I think, for all the reasons that you've said, it's just staring at yourself. And Glennon Doyle talks about, on a slightly, she's not talking about doing mirror work, but she says she says like she reckons at least 50%, it was maybe more, of her day is spent thinking about how she looks, and I can't remember whether it was looking in the mirror. And I think that's so true. So then the thought of I now just choose not to look in the mirror, as much as possible. And it's not just physical it's just the dealing with just all of this.
It runs
and like
deep,
the life,
doesn't it?
and the pain, and how how have I got here? Yeah, it really
but
is.
also like what I found as well is not only seeing yourself through that without that critical lens, but you see how much you've suffered. You see, you allow that shit to actually be, allow yourself to face it. And when you're facing it in a journal, it's obviously life-changing as well. But when you're sat in front of yourself and you see how much pain you've carried and how much grief you've had and how much whatever it is, you can physically see it in your eyes, and you can see it in the way you carry your body, and you can see like, fuck, I'm so sorry that you've done that on your own.
Yeah. It's
Why
like
haven't
the inner
I been
child
there for
work,
you
isn't
to
it?
help you?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And the mirror really just helps you to see exactly what you've been avoiding. And even though you live in your body every single day, you're looking out of your face, out of your eyes, and this is your world and this is your life, you're up in here.
Yeah.
You're not in here. Do you know what I mean? And I think with the mirror, that really helps you to just visualize that. For me, I'm a very visual person anyway, but visualizing that and seeing that in front of me made me realize, like, fucking hell, you're all right. You know, I quite like you. Let's do this. Let's be there for each other.
Yeah.
And I catch myself in the mirror sometimes now, and I'll be like, we're all right, Dani. Like, you're doing good. You're doing fine. You're okay. You're all right. And I'll give myself a little talk to in the mirror, and it sounds fucking mad, but
no,
it's life changing.
Good, that's amazing. And for people who are interested in that, do you have a recording of that one, or is that if someone wanted to do that, how would they find it?
Yeah, on my website, if you go to mytmsjourney.com/yoga, and then in book a class section, there's the on-demand library button there. In the Yoga Nidra section, it's the self-compassion and mirror work special in there.
Amazing.
I can link it. I'll link it on this page wherever we put this video. It's brilliant, but it's something that you can incorporate really easily yourself. I'll stick little post-it notes on my bathroom mirror sometimes if there's a message I want to remind myself about. My current one is I will look after you, Dani, and that's just the one that is all-encompassing. Baby promise to myself, but it is actually quite a big promise, because it makes me not drink as much, not eat shit food anymore, not treat myself like shit, not let other people treat myself like shit. Boundaries, maintaining my protective wall, all that shit. I will take care of you.
Amazing.
Good promise.
You taught me about boundaries. I didn't know what they were until you taught me about that. That was a huge thing that you taught me. I think I'd heard people talk about it, and I think I was like, Dani, I don't really understand what boundaries are. And then when you explained it, and then we spoke about it to do with things in my current world, that was just massive for me. But it's amazing.
Boundaries are brilliant, and again, they're really fucking hard to set as well. Like, that's one of the most difficult things I've ever had to learn how to do, is to say no to people, or to stand up for myself and say something contrary to what they want or what they believe. But that's just finding as part of accepting yourself and finding your own voice, isn't it? And like just allowing that to blossom or whatever, to grow.
And believing you deserve that. I think that was the bit that I struggled with, was like, but it's believing you deserve that. I don't know where that comes. I guess that has to come first in a way, doesn't it, before you can do it? But that's a big thing for a lot of people.
And I think self-acceptance and that self sort of love journey, wherever you're at in that stage, that definitely comes part of that, where you realize that you have worth and your voice matters and your opinion matters, or what you actually need matters just as much as what everybody else needs. Like your needs just matter just as much as your son, and just as much as your husband, and just as much as your life together as a family. You as an individual, just as Charlotte, is 100% as valid and 100% as has needs and has desires and has a voice and has an opinion. And if you don't kind of like honor that, then you're giving away all of your power to everybody else, and that powerlessness fuels symptoms like a motherfucker. Because you have no power. You literally have no power. And people come in and break a boundary, or you don't have a boundary and people take advantage of you, or you always do what your partner wants instead of always what you want, or half, or I need my time to myself, I need my Pilates, I need my this, I need my that. And it's just enforcing those things, and it feels foreign as fuck when you first start it. It's like, oh my God, am I actually asking for what I want? How can I do this? Like, I would like to have fish and chips tonight. Sorry. I don't want to have Chinese again. Can we have Indian? Like, fucking hell. Yes. You know?
How do we
Yeah,
get into this position? Yeah.
we learn it, don't we? Our whole fucking life, we learn this, we're taught, we learn, and we believe. And I also think this is a really good point to mention. If we're angry with other people, or we have feelings towards other people that we can't actively express to them, then we turn that inwards. And that is very much what I've done my whole life. If I've been hurt by someone, or I've had a difficult situation and I can't tell them and I can't express it to them, and because of whatever reason, then I'm going to turn that inwards. So if I have anger towards you and I can't tell you, Charlotte, you fucking pissed me off, I'll turn that on myself and tell myself I've pissed myself off. So the boundary there, if you set a boundary with that person, or you tell them how you feel, or you tell it to your journal or whatever, then you've let that out. You've let that kind of like not happen and turn inwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. And I think one thing that you're good at, you've spoken a lot about, is self-care and planning your I want to say workload, but I'm sure it's more than that, so that it works for you and you know what the right balance is for you.
That was a massive learning curve, and I'm still figuring that out now. And since the last year as well, with all this up and down emotionally and weirdness we've had the last year, like I've really learned what my emotional or mental capacity is. And it is much more diminished than it used to be. Or it was always the same and I was just blasting it into all proportion with the work that I was doing before and saying yes to everybody and doing every single thing. And now I will only I used to do this much a day, and now I do this much a day, work-wise, or stuff that I find difficult, or stuff that I find like draining. And the rest of the time is keeping that capacity intact and protected, and making sure that I'm on a level that I'm not like nosediving or freaking out, or I'm able to do my day-to-day shit. And that is just a capacity that I've needed to learn. Like window of tolerance, or whatever you call it. You know?
I think it's such an important lesson for all of us to be able to do that. Again, I just think you're awesome. I think you're amazing. I've learned so much from you. And I've no idea where we're at with time.
Yeah, probably like 8 hours.
Because I'm really enjoying. How long has it been?
I don't know, like maybe nearly 2 hours, I think. I'm just wondering whether my microphone's going to go off, because I don't know how much battery it's got left, but we can wrap up if you want.
Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say? And then we can, as you said, we'll finish it there. But is there anything else that you think would be good for people to hear from you?
I don't think so. I mean, I know there was some personality trait stuff we were going to get into, but true. I think, what was the question you had about that? Can you remember?
You're absolutely right. We've ticked off all of the other ones in there because I wanted to make sure that we'd so one of the questions you had when you posted it was I'd love to hear more about your realizations about your personality and how they were contributing to pain.
So I mentioned a little bit about it before, but I think mainly what I noticed was just how perfectionistic I was and how people pleasery I was. I think those were the two main things for me. I had learned to appease everybody else and keep the boat from rocking in my family life, in my partnerships, in my friendships, in my work environment, and always wanted to appear to be the sort of perfect, efficient, fast, capable, kind, whatever words you want to give it, person that never said no, that was always there, that was always going to give and always deliver and always bring more to the table than everyone else and all this kind of shit. And I now realize that was, now by reducing that and removing it, one, it wasn't necessary. Two, it made me massively anxious and really fed into that I'm never good enough trait, because it never was. No matter how much I did, no matter how much I gave, no matter what I did, always turned to, well, it's not good enough no matter what you do anyway. So by dialing that down, it definitely contributed to nervous system regulation for me massively. That was unnecessary amount of effort and people pleasing, and basically that perfectionism doesn't exist. Like, it's boring, it's dull, and it's a big fat lie. It doesn't exist. You'll never be happy with what you do if you're aiming for perfection. Never ever. Like Nicole says, it's like almost like a form of self-hatred, isn't it? Because you're always looking for where you're going to fuck up.
Did I hear you say on another podcast that you now either purposefully make mistakes or you really let your like has that helped you? Do you really do that?
Yeah, I do. Like I leave typos in my posts when I see them, even if before I post them, I'll see it and I'll leave it. I'll make a social media image and I'm not happy with it. I would usually maybe spend 3 days over something to make sure that I was perfectly happy with it. I'll just fucking do it as it is.
Yeah.
I don't care if the font doesn't look right. I don't care if the colours don't look right. I don't care if my colour palette isn't completely set properly. Like before, that would be, oh my God, you've lost your mind. What do you mean you don't have a brand assets pack for this and you're following it to the T and you're pixel perfect here and there and the margins are all perfect?
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. I still want it to look right and stuff, but I don't pick myself into oblivion anymore.
Yeah.
And if like I was saying to you before, when we do this recording, if it goes tits up at the beginning and it doesn't really work, so what? We'll post it anyway. We're just having to chat. It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
I'm not bloody Coca-Cola or NASA or something. It's just like we're just having a conversation. It doesn't have to be this like, you know, Trump Towers kind of thing. It's stupid.
I love that.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And this just shows all the progress you've made since whenever it was you started this work. Like that's major.
Yeah.
It's major stuff.
It's a total life switch for sure. I feel so much more relaxed and it's fine. Like people fuck up and I think that's a massive lesson. Just people are a mess. Like everyone's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Everyone's got so much shit that they hide from people and that they think they're not good enough about and it doesn't matter. I think that makes us human. That makes us like, you know, vulnerability is beautiful. Like I'd rather know your demons and love that part of you as well than have you hide them from me and me make you think that you're just really superficial.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what makes human people beautiful, like being weird and being a mess.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'd rather know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Oh, thank you.
You've been such a great host, Charlotte.
Pardon?
You're such a great host.
Am I really? What on your? I've no idea. I mean, when we finish this, you didn't tell me what I do when we end, but I'm sure I'll work it out.
That's okay. I can just edit it off and then we can just finish.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much. You are a star, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom and your story with everybody, because I'm sure a lot of people will get a huge amount out of this.
Thank you, darling. It's been a pleasure. If anybody else wants to share their story or be involved in this series, then on the page on my website, mytmsjourney.com/stories, there's a little form on there that other people can fill in if they want to take part in this and tell us about how they've done on their recovery and stuff like that. I'd actually like to do a little rewind with you at some point, because I know you've progressed quite a lot now since you and my first interview on your stories. So I'd like to do a little follow-up with you at some point as well, if you're into that.
Yeah, of course. Sounds awesome. I'd love to. All right then.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.